Good morning, YouTubers and friends. How are all of you doing today? It's Y2K saying hello again. Today is September 11, 2025, Thursday, 7:58 a.m. In Southeast Asia, in Singapore. So the first thing most important thing is to acknowledge those who have fallen today on September 11. Um, in the US, you know, during September 11. And so I offer my prayers, sympathies, and condolences to the families who actually lost their loved ones uh, during that fateful day on September 11. And lest we forget, really, lest we forget. Let's not forget those who um, gave their lives subsequently to defend freedom as well. Yeah, but what are your thoughts are on September 11? You and I both know about maybe their kind of theories and stories, but regardless, people lost lives. So I think about people um, who have actually lost their loved ones. So let's give a minute and a moment to think about that. Yeah. Um, So, I hope today's mic placement will be good. I'm still sort of like doing this whole vlogging thing at my own pace. And maybe someday all these videos will go somewhere. And my family, friends, and loved ones will, and even you supporters and, friends or viewers will have a chance to listen to the various kind of um, different topics I will be sharing from my experience. Yeah. So I was thinking today, what I wanted to share about is a phrase sometimes I use quite often. It is called "no expectations, no disappointments." Yeah. So you might think about um, what does "no expectations and no disappointments" mean? Is that especially for some of you, maybe some of us, we tend to be hopeful individuals, or we were hopeful individuals, and we were very, very enthusiastic about certain aspects and things in our lives. Now, maybe we were hopeful about taking up a new role in a new job, and that new role was challenging, but you know what? You put your best foot forward. You may not have been qualified, you may not have been certified and qualified, or maybe you were not educated, or mentored enough to take on that new role. But you took on that new role anyways. And then you put your best foot forward, and then you realize that, everything that you have actually done, be it best effort, and you actually excelled very well. You succeeded very well in doing it, but you were not perfect. Or maybe you could say that I could be fair and say we were not perfect. And when it came time to appreciation, of the hard work you put in, a bit dry today. I have a water in my car, but I don't want to be drinking it from that bottle because it looks kind of funny. Just for shits and giggles, I do use old liquor bottles to drink water. So, because as you're aware, if you use, I know I'm drifting off topic just slightly. If you use plastic bottles for mineral water to drink water and you keep the bottles in a hot car, on a very hot sunny day in Singapore, which can go in the car temperature internally, can go up to 40 degrees Celsius or 45 degrees Celsius, maybe even hotter than that, you're going to have chemical reactions on those plastic bottles that you put in the car and just for drinking. So what I do is I use old liquor bottles from either brandy, whiskey, and I put water in them after I wash them, and I put them in the car, because glass bottles don't have that chemical reaction when when it's a hot temperature. Now, the only thing you probably might have is if the sunlight permeates through the windows of your car and they shine on the bottle, and there are certain air gaps in the bottle, you might get algae in the bottle, which is like a green color slime thing. But so far, my water bottles in my car, I usually use them up by once every 2 weeks. Longest is once every 3 weeks. And then pretty much I would just change the water in the bottle and wash it down with a detergent and just flush the whole thing out. But anyways, back to no expectations, no disappointments. The one thing, if you ask me what have I learned from the simple example I was telling you about, in a workplace, you actually put your best foot forward. You committed everything. There's some of us, we're very committed to doing things well. We're about getting the job done, getting it done well, But of course, let us, clear the air about the fact that not everybody simply follows the same kind of working attitude or the protocols that you have on hand, and like to do it well, do it quickly. My philosophy when it comes to work is I don't like to micromanage people. I'm not a manager, by the way. I like to give the benefit of the doubt that people, when you are at a certain age of your life, you should be mature. I use the word should be because, unhidden expectation. You should be mature enough, or to have the integrity to do the work without people having to bark on you, and then simply say that, hey, hello, where are you on this thing? And if you're like goofing off at work. Now, if you're not that kind of person goofing off at work, giving attitudes, and you're really doing your best, why do I say that you should not have expectations? You can have expectations on the work that you produce, but the part where you shouldn't have expectations on is the people. Now, the work is dead. When I say the work is dead, it's a non-living thing. It doesn't breathe. Well, if you're a doctor, that's different. But the work that you do, or maybe a vet, but the work that you might be doing, say an office worker or factory, assembly line worker, or you could be a janitor, the work that you do isn't breathing and living. It doesn't respond back to you. Now, how it would reciprocate back to you is when you look at the work that's being done, it's done well. And when it's done well, is that self-satisfaction that you have, that you feel, oh, yes, I've done it well. You have something to look at, and you're very impressed by it because it's a job done well by your own hand. Now, where it all goes awry is when, let's say, a supervisor comes along, a colleague comes along, or co-worker, or the big boss of the company comes along, and they look at the work that you have done. In your eyes, you have done it well. You cleaned the place out well. You sorted the storeroom. You made sure that this warehouse is done properly. You've itemized, you've categorized, you make sure that your inventory is all done well. So where it goes awry is when people look at the work and they're like, it's not up to my standard. Oh, it's not up to this standard, Now the hidden expectation is that if you knew beforehand what the requirements of somebody's expectations were, that's fair enough because they wanted you to do it in this way. But many times, these expectations can be very grayed out. People may not say it clearly, and people may not actually even articulate themselves, or they assume. Assumptions are the biggest cock-ups, really. Is the grand perspective of cock-ups when people use assumptions on people. So, but assumptions, as you can say, it goes two ways. I assume my boss will like it. My boss assumes that I will follow that style, kind of thing. So, when you receive the feedback or the comments that, oh, this is not done based on what I wanted it to be, this is not done what I want to be, or you work your best and it comes down to appreciation, and you're sitting in amongst your colleagues in the crowd. And I think the sad part is when you realize that all the work you could have done from years, months, weeks, and I'm trying to be very honest, at the same time positive, to tell you that all the effort that you put in my eyes, when I talk to any staff, any colleague, I always ensure that I'm sensitive, because you need to understand that everybody has feelings, but will people be humble or have empathy to actually understand the struggle of people, their staff, their co-workers and all? It's not always that way. A lot of people don't really have empathy, which is up to you to decide if it's real or not, whether people have empathy or not. But the truth is that when I adopted this thought process of no expectations, no disappointments, it was a very fair kind of thought process, because it was a thought process that gave me the assurance that, you know what, Y2K or so and so, you can push your hardest, you can do your best, but don't expect. Because you know why? When you sit in that crowd of people, in a company town hall, and they're there, management is there appreciating all these people who maybe took over from you. Nothing about jealousy. Let's get this right. Jealousy and feeling unappreciated are two very different things. See, when we talk about green-eyed monster, the envy. Okay, jealousy is because you were kind of very attached to something or someone, and that is now no longer giving you that kind of reciprocation or anything. In terms of people's feelings, is different, but in terms of non-organic, okay, let's focus on non-organic stuff. Jealousy and feeling underappreciated is very different. And the underappreciatedness is when you feel that when people are being appreciated, and you sit there and you're wondering, hey, that could have been me. I did all those things to do this onboarding for this company so that we could get this business. Or you could say, I've done all this to stabilize the ship after it was, going through a restructuring in the company. Some of us, I don't know if any of you go through this, we believe in this. We believe that it is important to be a solution than a problem. Yes? Let me repeat that. To be a solution than to be a problem. For example, you might think, so and so needs help. You have the skill set, but you have the capability, and you're like, okay, I'll help out, because you know what? I want to be a unit. We want to function as a unit. We want to function as a team. The truth is, many, many times in the corporate setting, on a workplace settings, or even in school, people tend to forget. They tend to forget the fact that there are some people who are really sticking it out there for others. And the fact is, ladies and gents, is that the fact they're so full of it themselves. Now, this is where I've actually done observation on people, is that they're so full of themselves that they need the constant visibility on their own achievements that they forget about the team. Okay, let me repeat that word. They forget about the team. The team that put them there. The TEAM. Okay, the team of people that put them there. A team of people that actually got them there. They got the company there. They got the department there to meet the KPI. And the sad part of it is that when you put that expectation that, oh, I'll get appreciated, I'll get promoted and all these things, do we put aside a bit of reservations? And what happens if we don't get it? Are we prepared? Are we prepared to face that disappointment? That shock? Because it would be like someone taking a stone and throwing it through your glass house kind of thing, or like when the penny drops kind of situation, and it's like a oh my moment, and then you just simply like look at yourself and you're very disappointed. And that is why this approach of no expectations, no disappointments focuses strictly to remind yourself is, let me get to the point also as well. As some people say, oh, that's very negative, thinking very negative. What is wrong with thinking pessimistically or negatively for once? There is nothing wrong. In fact, the matter remains is that usually, if the company culture is as such, it's coming. You can smell it coming. You can sense it coming. So, when you don't have any expectations and you sit in that hall, people that don't, some people, it's weird how some people get moved up, Some people get demoted, or some people just stay the same. It's not about getting out of your comfort zone. That's a very different thing, ballpark altogether. You have gotten out of your comfort zone. You have put your ass on the line, okay, to do the job well. And you have actually stuck out. You've put everything out, all your best efforts. And what happens? You don't get anything. Do you sit there and you moan and groan about it? No. When you have the thought of no expectations and no disappointments, you have assured yourself that, hey, this is the way of things in this workplace, And this is a clear telltale sign that, what? You can still put your best foot forward, because your output, the quality of your work, the integrity, the good attitude you have should be preserved. Don't lose it because you didn't get the appreciation. While you may feel that, I'm just going to do just this amount, I don't have to do way above and beyond. It's entirely up to you. You can decide if you want to do it, or you can just decide you don't want to do it way too much. And can you be faulted for that? No. Because you're just doing your requirements. You're just doing what you're paid to do, that beyond what you're paid to do. You're just doing what you have actually been paid to do. No more, no less. Because realistically, doing more simply just tells you, what? You're not going to be appreciated. So hey, be smart about it and take the right move, and remind yourself, don't push yourself down because you didn't get the promotion, the appreciation, or people just overlooked you. And once you sort of master this, you no longer feel upset about it, because you only need to gratify yourself. Because all the effort you have done, you did it because of good intentions. Yeah. That's one interesting thing when people say good intentions. They always think, of course this phrase good intentions varies from situation to situation. The way that the phrase is used, good intentions, can be used wrongly. So you need to think about how and when to use it right. But I just thought about sharing this today with you guys as I travel to work. And I think that whenever I'm driving to work and talking with you guys, it's one very private moment, that I get to feel in my zone. Because there's no one I mean, there's other cars around, there's other motorists around, but I don't have to feel awkward or embarrassed that, someone might in the office or like on the street be looking at me wondering what am I filming. But to those content creators, they heads off to you about the tenacity of doing vlogging in public, especially when you're doing one person to a camera or solo vlogging. Yeah, but I find that in the space that I get to be, driving to work and talking to you guys, um, it's great. So, while we do a quick recap about no expectations, no disappointments, I highly encourage each of you to think about giving yourselves the accreditation, the pat on the back. Job well done. Go reward yourselves. And you got to remember the best reward is how you tell yourself that it was a job well done. And even if your close ones, your loved ones, your best friends, your best colleagues, your bosses, or families don't appreciate what you do. You could be a housewife too, a house husband, or children, coming home from school and doing housework. And then you're like, oh, uncle and auntie, or mommy and daddy, or granny and grandpa doesn't give me appreciation. This could apply to you. No expectations and no disappointments. But before I wrap up and close, why is it important I just want to talk very briefly about faith. Faith, faith. While, I may be coming from a certain religion, but why I'm telling you it's important to have your own religion is because when you have your own religion or your own faith, okay, it drives you, it gives you purpose, it gives you direction. That is something that money can't buy, from going to a nightclub or a disco. Maybe it could give you that gratification at the nightclub or something, But having your own faith is like having a very strong skeletal structure there. It's always there when you're faltering. It's always there when you're falling backwards, physically and mentally. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would ask and pray and hope for those of you who are going through a very difficult time in this day and age of the growth of AI. Some of us are very anti-AI. I know I'm one of them. Because I always think that having the human touch is always so much more personal. I know that there are rude people around, rude service staff, rude managers, rude middle managers, or rude executives or whatever. But having the human touch when it comes across a very good person is amazing. But as I go on rambling, I just wanted to take this time to share with you guys about one of the very simple core precepts that I actually keep in my mind when I go to work. No expectations and no disappointments. Does it make you very indifferent? Maybe it does. And at some point, you just don't need to constantly be reacting to your feelings all the time, because you can't control people. You can't control what they say. You can't control who they decide to promote. But that's life. And I know it's very easy to say the phrase, that's life. But I would like to encourage you guys to think about what drives you to keep going. Your purpose, your individuality. You could be driving a team, and your whole team people are just like you. So aside from your own individuality, you want to talk about like what drives your team, what drives you, and how are you going to drive this team forward, knowing that you've all been chucked aside. Yeah. But I hope this simple little sharing has been fruitful to you guys. And I will. And if you have any interesting topics or comments you wish to share, and your thoughts about this, no expectations, no disappointments, I welcome you to put them in the comments below. Share about it, think about it. What are your thoughts? It's an open discourse. You don't have to agree. You can agree to disagree. Yeah. So to the next time I see you all again, it's Y2K signing off. Take care, all of you. Stay healthy and happy.